What's going on, everybody? James Simons here again, and today we're going to be talking about mock scrapes and proper placement of them and how they can be a great usage for your success out in the field. So, I got into mock scrapes pretty hard a few years ago, and that's when I really started figuring them out and how to place them and how to use them to my success. We all know that most scraping is done at night, and that is very true. But what we don't know is that mock scrapes can be a great tool to get a buck to stop and to get a cruising buck to come through your area. So this particular buck behind me, I named him Charles. I shot him in 2019. He is just an 8-pointer. He's nothing crazy. He's about 125 inches. And, not an absolute monster, but he's a very nice deer. I shot him using a mock scrape. He was pretty regular on one of my cameras throughout early October into the first week of November when I harvested him. So that particular area, how I was using a mock scrape to my advantage was above my stand I had very solid doe bedding. And in between was a very hard travel area in between food and the bedding. And I put a mock scrape out at the beginning of September, and I was using just straight doe urine and young buck urine. And very quickly I started noticing that does were using that mock scrape very frequently, and a lot of juvenile bucks were using that mock scrape very frequently. And that area around the first week to mid-October really starts popping off hard with scrapes. And we've all seen it in the woods before, where all of a sudden everything's just torn up. And what that is a hot and ready 1.5, 2.5-year-old buck that came through and just tore everything up. He was full of piss and vinegar. And that's not the scrape line we want to be hunting. So we're going to go over placement a little bit of it. So placement with a mock scrape is very important. And like I said, in between bedding and food and a hard travel area is a very good area. But having it on a main deer run is great. Put up a camera over it and be able to inventory what's coming by, because that buck is going to be cruising those main areas during the rut for them hot does. In the food itself, just to have an area where that buck is going to come into your one area to check. Because some of us hunt very open oaks, and if you're archery hunting and he comes through cruising 70, 80 yards out, you're probably not going to take that shot. But if you have that mock scrape there with some doe estrus and he's downwind of it, he's probably going to come in and check it and put his scent in it. Another story with the mock scrape and how it's successful is for my brother last year. He was hunting a thicker area just above where I shot this buck, actually. And he had a buck come in chasing 5 or 6 does, and he was trotting right through, and he hit that mock scrape in a shooting lane and stopped dead in his tracks and was able to give him a shot opportunity. So they can also be a helpful thing for you if you're in a thicker area and you need a deer to stop in a hole. So starting early September, I'm using straight doe and young buck urine. Transitioning into mid-October, I'm using Scrape Master, which is a little bit of doe estrus and some dominant buck urine. And then the last week of October through the rest of the rut, I'm hot and heavy on doe estrus to constantly make it smell like there's a hot doe there. So if you're in that area that buck is going to be cruising through, and you have a constant supply of doe urine in the active does in your area using that scrape, he's naturally going to go to that scrape to scent check it to see what's hot and what's been through recently in that area. And if you're hunting over that scrape, you're going to be there for that shot opportunity. Mock scrapes, I'd say, is about 90% placement of them. You know, if you have a mock scrape out on a field edge and there's not a whole lot of bucks cruising by during the daylight, you're probably not going to have too much activity on it. But if you're on that downwind side of that bedding area with that mock scrape, and that scrape's in between you and the bedding, and that buck's cruising on the downwind side of that bedding, checking it for hot nose, he's going to come by and naturally stop at it and give you a shot opportunity. Placement with them is 90% of it. Location is the rest of it, and having them bucks in your area. Mock scrapes can be a very helpful thing in the whitetail woods when used correctly. Not using your estrus urine too early, not touching it with your bare hands in your dog poop covered boots is another thing. You want to try to limit your human odor in it as much as possible. So the use of scrape beads, a scrape dripper are great, where you can always keep that scrape fresh even when you're not there. Putting up a cell cam on it versus a regular camera that you have to go in and you have to put human scent, pulling the SD card out. Having that cell cam there where you can limit the amount of time you're on that mock scrape is a great thing to do. Mock scrapes are just an awesome thing to use and have in your back pocket in the whitetail woods. I love them. I've had a lot of people with success on them. And it's another great tool just to monitor what's in your area, even if it is nighttime activity. You know, you're going to get pictures of deer. You're going to figure out what's in your area. But I can almost promise you, come the rut, if you have that in the right location, that buck that you're targeting that's in that area, he's going to come by at some point during daytime, and he's going to check that scrape. If you're in the stand or not, that's on you. But he will come by at some point in the season, in daytime, to check that mock scrape and work it. I hope these tips and these placement things that I gave you guys help you out in the field and help you be more successful with using mock scrapes. Thanks for watching.